On a lighter note, comedian Kagiso KG Mokgadi now joins us today, and he will offer a satirical reflection on South African politics. Known for his sharp wit and keen observations, Mokgadi brings humor and insight to the complex world of politics, using satire to engage, challenge and entertain audiences while encouraging them to think critically about current events. And he joins us now live via our video link. And Mr. Mokgadi, thank you so much for your time this evening here on SABC News. I mean, let's start off here. We really had a very memorable 2025, and I'm sure you as comedians took your time to find humor in some of the major issues that rocked our country. And I'd like to start off here. I mean, the one notable one for me is the White House, and when President Cyril Ramaphosa made his way to the White House, and of course we saw those lights being turned off.
Oh man, thank you for having me. I remember the president leaving and going, "We will not be bullied." Oh man, listen, the president handled it well, and I think when you look at the events of today, you almost go, we needed the president to go to the White House to at least calm that madman down that's running that White House. I think the most memorable thing for me was the level of tension ended up with any else thanking America for supporting the army of South Africa against freedom fighters in Angola. Man, when I was sitting, I was looking at that going, Annie. I was looking at that going, Annie, are you okay? Annie, are you okay? Michael Jackson reference. That was one moment at that time that I found was really, really hilarious. But it happens in times of stress, doesn't it?
Yeah, surely it does happen. I mean, staying with the US, you'd also remember that there was that very important refugee program that took place. And I mean, it reminds me just yesterday, still many South Africans are finding so much humor in some of those South Africans who took the opportunity to go to the US.
That is the best thing about South Africans, because instead of getting angry, we literally white South Africans in particular made videos of how bad things were. Remember the words were, there are bad things. There are really, really bad things happening in South Africa right now. The way white South Africans went and mocked the idea of white genocide was crazy. The idea that refugees are flying in planes and refugees have got like big houses, and that was easily the craziest thing to happen in January 2025.
And maybe if you can just give us a bit of insight, why is it so important? You know, these are very important moments that took place, and they also detrimental to everyday lives, you know, in South Africa. And why is it sometimes just important to reflect and maybe just, you know, have a good laugh at some of the major events taking place in our country?
I think if we don't laugh, we're going to go crazy, because we're dealing with a lot, right? Like, this is a lot. We're dealing with a lot. If we don't laugh, if we don't sit down and reflect and go, how crazy was it that when the president was very dignified and he was there to reset relationships and have a dignified conversation around the world, the man decided to trap him with not even facts. Like, these are the things that South Africans have to sit there, and if we don't laugh about them, I promise you we're going to lose our minds.
And staying with the president, I mean, also with US President Donald Trump, there was the G20 that took place late in the year in November. And, you know, talking about that trip when Ramaphosa went all the way to Washington begging for the president of the US to come and attend that G20 summit. And that didn't take place. And still at the same time, you know, just talking about the highlights of the G20 when everyone was in the room except for the US.
That, from the point of South Africa, in my opinion, that was a lesson in diplomacy 101, right? I remember I was at the G20. I remember there was a point where the handover had to happen, and the US sent a charge, like a junior diplomat. And South Africa taught us something amazing. Because I was of the opinion, like, hey, why aren't we fighting back? There was a point where the spokesperson of the US president said the president is running his mouth. I remember asking the Minister of Foreign Affairs, why don't you say something equally untactful, equally disrespectful? And he said, we're great at diplomacy. That's what we do. That's what we do. And what we did was, in this place of handing over to a charge, we told a whole America to make an appointment at the Department of Home Affairs, just like at the Department of International Relations, just like the rest of us. That was the single most, for me, it was a diplomatic go jump in a lake without saying go jump in a lake, and it was gorgeous. Shout out Ronald Lamola and the team.
And before I let you go, Kagiso, another important one that we must make note of is the issue around Floyd Shivambu. I mean, he left the EFF and then he went on to join the MK party. And when he joined the MK party, I mean, he said it's the best decision he had ever made in his life. And now, you know, seeing where he is, I mean, we are headed to the local government elections, right? And we will now be able to see if whether he will be able to bring across that political muscle that he claims to have. What do you make of those moments, moving from one party which you founded, moving to another, and now you are found all alone and having to go at these elections now on your own under a different banner?
South Africa is a movie. I remember he said, "Best decisions I've made. This is an amazing politician. I'm going to learn so much." And he called other smaller political parties fiefdoms. How? 5 minutes later, he's starting his own fiefdom. What's going on, Floyd? Listen, we look forward to seeing what is going to happen to his party. We were hoping that the logo of his party doesn't look like a beer brand that I will not mention on TV. But listen, we're excited to see what he's going to pull off. I've got my doubts.
All right.
As comedians, we'll be begging that he give us work. You know, like give us jokes.
Certainly, Kagiso, thank you so much for your time. That's comedian Kagiso KG Mokgadi. And of course, as the news cycle begins, lots coming out from the US, and I'm sure they're going to find a lot of humor while we make sense of the more serious stuff here on the news.